Hello to all of our listeners. My name is Tofay, and today is another great day to be a social worker. Welcome to Social Work Amplified, a podcast hosted by Speak. Speak stands for social policy, education, advocacy, and knowledge. And our mission is to amplify the voices of social workers by providing resources, increasing students' political engagement, and facilitating networking opportunities. Speak would like to gratefully acknowledge the generous support of the Simmons Sister Funds at Texas Women's Foundation. I would like to introduce our guest for today's podcast, Renae Perry. Renae Perry is the Chief Operating Officer at the Senior Source, a nonprofit organization serving older adults and family caregivers in the greater Dallas area for more than 60 years. Renae has worked various roles over the past 20 plus years at the Senior Source, and she has served in her current position for more than 9 years. She has extensive experience in nonprofit leadership and program development and loves working with the staff at the Senior Source to support older adults, caregivers, and volunteers to ensure the best quality of life possible. She has a bachelor's degree in social work from Howard Payne University and a master's degree in social work from the University of Texas at Arlington, and is licensed by the Texas State Board of Social Work Examiners. She has served on numerous advisory boards and councils, including the Parkland Geriatric Advisory Board, the Aging Mind Foundation Advisory Board, and the Family Violence Prevention Council. And she has chaired the Dallas Senior Employment Council. She is also an alumnus of the Leadership Dallas class of 2018. Renae and her husband, Michael, have 3 children, and Renae also enjoys volunteering at her kids' school and coaching her daughter's volleyball team through the local YMCA. Welcome, Renae. We're so excited to have you today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well as well. You have a fully loaded biography, and I'm just so excited to get to pick your brain today and get to know about your 20 plus years of experience, like 20 plus years. Wow.
I know it's a lot. I'm aging in place and I'll be eligible for our services before I know it. So time flies.
It does fly. So what led you into pursuing a career in social work to begin with, especially 20 plus years ago? What was that motivating factor for you?
Well, I actually took Intro to Social Work as an elective. It happened to be at the right time in my schedule when I was a student working on my undergraduate degree, initially thinking about business. And I took that Intro to Social Work, just thinking it would be an interesting class. And I really just fell in love with the thought of being engaged in a career that gives back and helps different populations. And I really liked the thought of just how many different types of opportunities there were for social workers. And so I changed my major, and the rest is history. I loved, and then working in my master's at UT Arlington, just I think strengthened that desire, and then having the opportunity to do an internship here at the Senior Source, actually, I really came to appreciate the opportunities of taking what we learn in class and then applying it in the field with the population that I was really interested in.
Yeah, that's good. So when did you get your master's at UTA?
I graduated in December of 1994, so a long time ago.
So, because you mentioned that Senior Source is where you did your internship. So did you just kind of like find your way back there, because you've only been working in your current position for 9 plus years? So I did my internship here, and then they offered me a position when I graduated working in one of their programs, recruiting and placing older adult volunteers in just different engaging, meaningful volunteer roles with community partners. And then I've worked in different positions here at the organization. I was the director of our employment program for
a few years. And then I was the director of another program, our Senior Companion Program, which is a federal program, for a number of years. And so I've been at the organization this entire time, just in different roles. And so I've been in this role for as Chief Operating Officer for the last 9 years or so.
Oh, wow. So you've been at the senior source kind of like your entire social work career?
Yes, I have. I know it's so rare, but I love it. And, I've not gotten bored yet. So that's a good sign.
You say you've moved around within that organization. So I'm pretty sure you know that organization very well by now. So
I should, yes. Hopefully.
So while you were in your at taking your master's level classes, and I know UTA, I don't know if they did it back then, if they offer like different paths to follow. Like right now, as a student, they offer like aging, they offer children and family, then they offer like the macro path. So did you end up going the aging route or the macro route, or was that even a thing back then?
You know what? There was not an aging track at the time when I went through. And so I did the macro track.
Mm-hmm.
And was thrilled to learn a number of years ago when they started an aging track, because I think it's definitely needed. And at the time, and even today, I feel like there aren't as many opportunities or the same level of interest in working with older adults as with some other populations. And so I'm glad to see that it's gaining some momentum, and there are more and more people interested in this for their profession and in the aging track specifically.
That's true. That's true. So what made you decide you wanted to concentrate in macro social work versus, maybe the other things that were available to you at that time?
Well, I knew that I didn't want to do counseling. Like, I didn't want to work. I enjoyed engaging with people, and I loved having deep, engaging conversations, but I didn't want to do counseling. And I really wanted to be able to use my skills to support multiple people. Like, I liked this idea of taking and enhancing what that can help direct service and one-on-one support, but using it more broadly. And when I worked when I did my internship here at the senior source, one of the things that I saw that was so appealing is that we had staff who are engaging, working one-on-one with older adults. And then we also had staff who were engaging in more of a macro way with community organizing around services and needs for older adults, and supporting advocacy initiatives to support older adults across the state or across the country even. And so I loved that idea of working in a different way, using social work skills, advancing our practice, but working with more than just a single client. And I love that older adults, oftentimes and it certainly felt like this at the time I did my internship, they were really underserved in terms of the opportunities and the services. A lot of people are, focused on children and families, which is wonderful. And I have kids, and so I'm glad there are services for children. Yeah. But older adults were so often overlooked. And I love the idea of working with a population that does get overlooked at times. And when you think about vulnerable populations, there are a lot of really vulnerable older adults out there. And so there are direct service opportunities to support them individually. There are legislative needs to support, good practices around financial exploitation and holding perpetrators accountable. And so there are just a lot of different avenues to support this population and I love that.
Yeah. So like, have you ever worked in the clinical role, or you just been, because I feel like as a social worker, no matter what role you do, even in the macro field, you're going to do some form of direct practice, but like for you, I know you started off in the macro field, but did you ever maybe do any type of clinical work, or you mainly just stayed in the macro field your entire career?
I think when I worked with our senior employment program, a lot of the supportive counseling we did with those clients was very much direct practice. We had a number of clients who spent their career working and then were laid off. And, for a lot of individuals, and particularly for the older men that we served, their identity was so tied to what they did professionally that when you took that away, they were incredibly fragile and really unaware of what to do next or how to move forward. And so there was a lot of direct counseling and support that was provided at that time in that role, which I really valued and appreciated. And then, now in my role, I work with our staff a lot more than I work directly with our clients. Mm-hmm. And, I think that supportive counseling is also important when you're working with staff who do really challenging, emotionally taxing work. And especially if you think about these last 2 years and just how stressful it's been for everyone. And particularly for our staff who worked with older adults, the staff who worked with older adults in long-term care facilities, and the impact that COVID has had on those facilities and those residents has been challenging. And so, I'm very appreciative of my social work skill set to be able to support and serve our staff in addition to the clients that we serve.
That's good. So basically in the macro field, just because we enter or anybody who chooses to enter the macro field, it does not mean that you're never going to do direct practice, because like you said, there's going to be those job titles or those duties where it's going to be heavily focused on direct practice and working with the individual, while at the same time you can still make that broader impact because you are in the macro field.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about Senior Source, a little bit about the organization itself?
Sure. So we just celebrated our 60th birthday last year. The Senior Source has been around since 1961. And really is that one-stop shop for older adult needs and family caregivers. And so when you think about how someone ages and that spectrum, we work with healthy, active older adults who are looking for volunteer opportunities and meaningful employment. And then we serve all the way to the most frail, vulnerable seniors who may be in nursing homes or assisted living facilities or in need of guardianship protection. So, and everything in between, and really are supporting older adults and their families with financial and emotional well-being, supporting folks who have financial needs, helping older adults who are in poverty, helping folks who have been victims of frauds or scams, advocating for quality of care and quality of life for nursing home residents and assisted living facility residents, and then helping family caregivers who are navigating that challenge of caring for an aging loved one and when they're in a situation, which is so often the case, everything is fine until something happens and mom falls or grandma is diagnosed with something that is just horrific and the family doesn't know what to do. And can mom age safely at home? What do we need to do to ensure that she's supported and cared for? And so all of those things are things that we address and support older adults in the greater Dallas area in.
Cool. So it seems like you guys do a variety of stuff, like just a source for seniors. I feel like the name of the organization really gives an insight to what you guys do, like just a source
Good.
for for seniors. And I like how you guys support not just the seniors, but also the people who support the seniors, such as the caregivers and the volunteers, which is really important to support the
Yeah.
support system. So you mentioned, is Senior Source only located in Texas, or is it national organization?
That's a good question. So we have several different programs that are in our organization. As an organization, we're local. We're a standalone nonprofit organization, but 4 of the programs that we have are national programs that exist throughout the country. And we're just fortunate to have all 4 of them under one umbrella in this organization. And then the other programs that we have are programs that we've developed based on the needs and anticipating needs of the growing older adult population.
Okay, that's cool. So for upcoming social work students that might be interested in a position like yours, Chief Executive Officer of the Senior Source, and I know it took you a while to just get to that position, it didn't happen overnight. Can you provide a brief insight into what you do overall or what a day looks like for you?
Sure. So I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Senior Source. And so I work very closely with our programs and our service delivery. So do our programs and services align and meet the needs in the community? Do we have the right staffing and personnel in place? Do they have the right training? I work a lot with partnerships. Do we have good partnerships to really amplify and help ensure we're meeting needs throughout the community and in communities and neighborhoods where the need is greatest? A lot of metrics. Are we meeting our goals? We have a lot of different funding sources. Are we providing accurate, important information and feedback for those funders to know that the dollars that they invest in our organization are being well spent and we're having an impact on the older adults we serve? Measuring for, we'd say we want financial well-being and emotional well-being for older adults. How do we measure that? How do we ensure that we are having that impact? And then working with the program directors of each of our programs and really ensuring that they have what they need to do the work that they do every day and that their teams are supported. And so it's just every day is a little bit different. I meet weekly with each of our program directors and work with our CEO and the strategic planning committee of our board, and just ensure that we're all in alignment and that we are really serving our mission and meeting our mission well. That's what I do. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seems like you do a variety of stuff. And, do you guys only have one branch or is it multiple branches?
We just have the one location that we work out of. And then for some of our programs, they are out in the field a lot of the time. For example, our long-term care ombudsman program, they advocate for residents in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And so they're actually out at those facilities going, to multiple facilities and visiting with residents and addressing concerns and issues that they may have. So they're not in the office very much. They're working out in the field a lot. And then we have other staff who are in the office, handling incoming calls or meeting with clients to help them pay utility bills or apply for benefits or get employment counseling. So it really just depends on the nature of the position as to where the staff work from. Oh, okay. But our singular location is on Harry Hines Boulevard, just north of downtown Dallas.
Okay. Because of all the stuff that you do. And I was like, okay, maybe there might be multiple locations. But
just the one.
Yeah. Well, with your job description, it included program evaluation, really, intense program evaluation, and making sure that the entire program is operating like you guys say that you guys are operating, in partnerships. So like you said, you do a lot, but I'm pretty sure every single day is different. And did you were you always working towards that chief operating position, or did you ever see yourself in that position?
I knew that I wanted to, support our organization and our staff, and I like the idea of being in a more management type of role, and being able to, offer my perspective and my voice to support the mission. But I was also very happy as a program director, and working as a director within a program. So it's not something I necessarily thought about, especially early in my career, but it's the opportunity presented itself, and I'm certainly very grateful that it did. And this is really my dream job. So getting to support staff and our mission, and, not do the same thing every day. It really is. Days are incredibly different from each other. And, getting to feel like you've made a difference at the end of the day is really a good feeling to have.
Yes, that is really a good feeling. So are there any, do you have any significant moment in your career of social work so far that maybe like sticks out to you, or that you would like to share with us?
I think one of the things that I'm most proud to have been involved in is the development of our Elder Financial Safety Center. We recognized a number of years ago how vulnerable older adults were to frauds and scams, and really wanting to do something to help strengthen that financial stability. And so I was part of the team that really helped submit the grant and support when we got funding to be able to launch that, to work through how that could look, and creating the job descriptions for the staff in that position, in that role, and supporting that center. So that was incredibly meaningful for me. We're now at a point where the center has been in existence for several years now. That launched in 2014. And last year we served 9,000 clients through that center alone, and helped a lot of those older adults support themselves financially better, and address frauds and scams, and work closely with the district attorney's office to seek justice in cases where older adults have been the victim of fraud or exploitation. And so that has been really meaningful. And then I think also, just personally getting the opportunity to go through we were selected as an organization to go through a special racial equity training with Dallas Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation, and being part of the 3-member cohort team that went through that 9-month training that really developed a racial equity outcome and building blocks for the organization to really ensure that we were embedding equity in all of the work that we do, and in having and ensuring that our staff understand diversity and inclusion and equity, and the difference between fitting in and belonging, and really making sure that we have good pillars to support true equity in the work that we do with older adults. That has been incredibly meaningful as well.
Yeah, those examples that you gave me, they do seem very meaningful and very like significant, especially the Elder Financial Safety Center. It's really admiring that you were able to participate in that, and like kind of started from like I'm pretty sure it took a team. It wasn't just you.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it's really admiring that you were able to start that, and work on that team and get that going, and now it's been in existence for a few years. That's really, really significant. That's the type of stuff like I want to do in my career, and I think as a student, sometimes we have like these desires, these big dreams to start this and start that. And you just kind of like give us as students and the listeners hope that, it is possible. It just takes time, takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of diligence. And eventually, what we do aspire to have one day will come to pass if we just work towards it.
Absolutely. And I tell you, I've talked with a few classes and students at UTA in the last year or two, and I am just so impressed with the passion and the voice and energy that the current students have. And just there's a lot of need in our world right now, whatever population people want to serve. And so there's a place for that voice and sharing what you're learning, and there's a place for you to make a difference that only you can make. And so I'm excited for this next generation of social workers to join the working world and make a difference and chart your own path.
Yes. So now we're going to move on to our advocacy questions. And I'm excited to hear from you since you've been in the field for 20 plus years. And I want to know like how things used to be done in the past and how it's changed. I think you're going to offer a very unique perspective. Mm-hmm. So the first question is, there are many ways to be politically engaged. What are some of the ways that you choose to remain politically engaged? And for you specifically, like, do you feel like the ways that you choose to remain politically engaged, have they changed since, from the first time you started the career? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I will say first and foremost, if you're eligible to vote and over 18 and vote, I mean, that is the most basic way for all of us to be engaged citizens and to participate in our democracy. And that's something, unfortunately, when I was 18, 19, 20, like I did not vote as much, like I voted in the presidential election, but then I didn't really vote as in the local elections as much until I got a little bit older and recognized that's really where we're able to make a difference. We are able to, use our voice and participate in all levels of government. There's so much that happens at the local level. So if there's somebody who is not voting in your local elections, please get registered to vote and vote in your local elections as well as in national elections. Like that's the most basic way that anyone can be involved in advocacy. And then, if there are issues that you care about, find out about them. Are there legislators that are championing those causes or who are running counter to those causes that you can share your voice? It only takes a few minutes to send an email or a phone call. And now there are so many tools where, social media, you can, Twitter is an incredible platform to be able to reach elected officials and staffers and share and gain momentum around an issue or a cause. And that's something, that obviously wasn't the case when I first started in social work 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. And so, there's a lot of opportunity out there to elevate your voice and to let legislators know your thoughts and what you care about and issues that you are passionate about. And, I think also sometimes, we get disappointed because we care about an issue and, and for example, this last state legislative session, there were a lot of people who were interested in some bills that related to SNAP benefits. And, there were some bills that were passed, but there were a couple that didn't get passed. But just because it didn't happen at that time, we're continuing to speak up about these issues and gain more support. And so when we come back at the next legislative session, we will be ready and have a stronger base of support, hopefully, to advance those bills. There are other bills around elder financial protection, some nursing home supports for older adult residents who are living in nursing homes. And, so like every step forward is a step forward, but there's still more work to do. And we can't get frustrated when when, we don't get the bills passed or things don't happen as quickly as we would like. So that's something, it's hard, that's easier said than done, but it is so important if, you're going to continue and engage and be part of advocacy efforts over the long haul. You can't burn out. You've got to keep going.
Yeah. You gave us a lot of advice there. I really appreciate that, because, there's a few questions I'm going to ask you, but you really loaded us with advice on how to remain politically engaged, especially when it comes to like bills being passed and just getting involved at the local level. Just a reminder, I know the Texas local elections, they're coming up soon, and we just need to get registered. I don't know if the cutoff has come, but it's really important, even as a social work student, just to maintain that involvement. And I was going to ask you, what do you do to keep your momentum in the field of advocacy? Like, you work within that field, and also just being politically engaged. Like, what do you personally do to keep your momentum? Because like you were mentioning in your previous reply, sometimes it can get, discouraging, especially when there's so many bills sent up, but not all of them passed. But you were saying how, like, a step forward is a step forward. But is there anything that you do, like, personally, just to keep your momentum and keep yourself going in the field of advocacy?
I follow a lot of individuals and groups that are involved in advocacy efforts, and so getting to see wins that they have or challenges that they've overcome helps as well. And I think just continuing to stay engaged and you can go on to whatever, if it's local government or state or federal, you can actually see where any given bill is in the process. And so, like, I have alerts set up, and so I get those notifications about how things are going, or if there's been some movement or some traction. And so that really helps. And then in terms of just being able to continue, when over the long haul, when things get frustrating or challenging, I think, practicing good self-care. I mean, that's foundational to any kind of social work that anybody is going to be engaged in at all. You have to take care of and listen to your inner voice and ensure that you're staying grounded and that you have ways to take care of yourself and support good mental health for yourself to continue to support and serve others well. I think that is critically important.
That's good. So you keep momentum by following groups. And I think what I got from your response is like celebrating like other people's wins, especially in the field of advocacy. It may not always be your win or your success, but just celebrating others really helps motivate you, to just continue to, fight for what you're passionate about. And also keeping tabs on those things that you want to change, because sometimes we do move. Maybe it might be a small move, but they do move up in the process, and just keeping tabs on that just to keep yourself encouraged. Well, that's really good advice.
And that's a great synopsis.
Yes. So what would you say to a social work student who is nervous about getting started with political social work or in advocacy? What would you say to put their mind at ease?
That's a good question. I guess I would ask them what they're interested in. Like, what are they passionate about, or what type of impact do they want to see? And start from there and build on that enthusiasm, so that when you're getting, you're nervous, if you have a chance to, provide testimony at a city council meeting or some sort of, public platform, reminding yourself why you're doing this, what it is that is important to you. That's helped me sort of calm my nerves at times, thinking about the why and why it's important. And I think also just even taking baby steps, maybe you start with making sure that you're registered to vote and you're voting in all your elections. And then maybe there's an issue that's coming up at city council. Maybe you don't start with, calling your national, representative or senator Maybe you start with your city council member and schedule a meeting with that person to talk about issues at the local level that are important to you. And then you build from there. But I think when people are talking about things that they are passionate about and that they care about, as you get started talking about that, and as if you've educated yourself and you know the issue well, that helps alleviate some of the nerves as well.
Yes, I really do believe that too. Like sometimes our passion, what we're really passionate about, that zeal can help override that nervousness. Because it's
Yeah.
not that the nervousness is not going to be there, but when somebody starts speaking about something that they're so passionate about, the words start to flow out, especially if they have like life experiences where they can draw from and things like that. So I think that's a really good question to start off with. Like, what are you passionate about? Like, start there versus,
Yeah.
starting somewhere where you're not as passionate about. Not that it doesn't matter, but maybe in that area where you're passionate, you might be able to just gain that confidence and that boldness that you need a little bit more quicker than,
Yeah.
another area. So I think I'm going to round off with this question. And this is going to be like a little bit of just giving advice to our listeners. I know you've been in the field for 20 years, 20 plus years. And if you could start all over again with political social work and advocacy, what would you do a lot more of?
I think I would have really engaged legislators more and made a phone call or sent an email. They want to hear from their constituents, and they have staff there to note responses. And if they get, 15 responses on one issue and 2 on, countering that, that makes a difference. And there aren't a lot of people who really engage in advocacy and actually reach out to elected officials and share their story and tell what they care about and what they want to see in their district or city or state or whatever geography it is for that legislation. That I think that I would have done that more. I really did not have the confidence or didn't really think necessarily that one voice could make a difference. But, over time, I've seen that really is so important. And so and also it helps you have some credibility. So if I'm talking to groups and I'm trying to get enthusiasm for an issue and I want, other folks to contact their legislators and talk about an issue or support an issue that is important to me, I have to have already done the work of reaching out and speaking up to my elected officials about it. And so that gives some credibility. So that I think that's really important. And it's easier than, it's ever been. I mean, you can easily and quickly send an email. You can actually go to the whatever government website. And for the most officials, you can actually email them from that site. And then there are a lot of platforms where you're able to, put in your contact information and it'll tell you who your elected officials are. And then you can respond to them at the same time through that platform and indicate your support or, if you're against an issue, to speak out about it. So.
Yes, that's one of the advices that we haven't heard yet. Engage our legislators more because after all, they are representing us. And I know there's so many ways to remain politically engaged. And that's one of the ways that we shouldn't forsake because like you said, they want to hear from us. And if there's one group of people engaging our legislators for one thing, and they're, that situation, that issue, it brings that situation or issue to the forefront of their minds versus, another issue that might not receive much engagement. Now they put that one on the back burner. So it's really important. And like you said, I really like the fact that you said that it builds credibility, especially when you're talking to people, what have you done in order to fix the problem or to address the problem? It kind of really motivates the next person that you're talking to. And after all, like you said, it's easier than it's ever been before. I mean, I know that sometimes we used to write letters like back in the days, and you can still write a letter to your legislator, but now
Mhm.
you can send an email, you can pick up the phone and call, and it's very easy. And it's just all about coming up with the words to say and just making that
Yeah.
call or just taking that action.
Yeah, I worked with a person here on staff who retired about a year ago, and she was coordinating all of our advocacy efforts at the state level. And her saying was always, democracy is not a spectator sport. And she really instilled, I think, in all of the staff, a love and appreciation to get involved and to let your voice be heard. And so, like, I learned so much from her, and am trying to articulate that well, and pass that on to others to get engaged and to not let democracy be a spectator sport, and to be involved and speak out about issues that are important to you, and ultimately vote.
Yeah, I like that. And democracy is not a spectator sport. Definitely. We can't just be onlookers, being on sidelines and just expect change to happen. You can't just follow the
Yep.
post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and just, hope that
Yep.
change is going to happen
Hope
when
for the best.
we definitely have to engage. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. These are great questions.
Yes, learned a lot from you today.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Renae, for spending time with me today. Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for another episode of Social Work Amplified. I hope you were able to learn something today that empowers you to become more politically engaged and helps you shape a better tomorrow. Until next time.